to begin our passport session. I want to thank everybody for coming. I see a lot of my students there. I guess they need that extra credit. So glad you came anyway. You're going to learn something on top of getting the extra credit. And I want to thank my faculty colleagues for coming and maybe bringing their students in. And I especially want to thank one of our former MIS majors for driving over from Houston, who will be talking with you about his job when I finish. So come on in. Y'all ready to get started? Very many more out there? Okay, I'm going to keep on track like I do in my class. So, first of all, let me ask, how many juniors and seniors are here? All right, let me ask something else. Have you started thinking about your future after Lamar in terms of the job search process? What is the job search process? That's what you really need to be thinking about right now. Do you know what the entry-level positions are in your field of study? Do you know if you would have the skill requirements to get that job? Is that job even in demand? And what is the salary that you could expect to receive in that entry-level position? If you're like most students, they don't know these things yet. But you need to be finding these things out because that is going to determine what kind of job you get. Now, anybody can get a minimum wage position. I see postings all over town. But I don't think that's what you want. You've invested a lot of money to come here and get a degree. So, do you know the area of jobs that are in greatest demand? Think about that question. What is in demand right now in this 21st century? 2014, approaching 2015. It's what we call the acronym STEM, S-T-E-M, which stands for science, your major in science, technology, engineering, or math. Of those four letters, I want to talk to you about our program, the MIS program, which is under the T category, technology. And to share with you the fact that our majors in MIS are in great demand. They know what their entry-level positions are. We got them through the process. They're all receiving very good, way above minimum wage salaries. So, being as though this is the first week of advising and registering for classes next spring, we strategically planned this presentation for that very reason, to give you some things to think about if you are thinking of changing majors, if you want to pick up a double major, if you simply want to pick up a minor in this field where the job demand is so strong. So that is the purpose for why we are here, to explore our MIS program. We offer a BBA in MIS, and we also offer a minor in MIS. When I created this program several years ago, I had to explain to a former dean who has recently passed away what MIS was. You know, you can spell out that acronym. It stands for Management Information Systems. But what does that mean? And I spent 2 hours talking to him and elaborating on this concept, which at the time was relatively new. Most schools did not even offer this major. And to put it concisely, there's many different ways of defining what management information systems is. But notice the first word is on management, and then the next two words, information system. So we can say concisely that MIS uses technology to solve business problems. That's a short definition. Now, what are business problems, though? Technology, you know what that is. We have the internet, we have mobile devices, we have all the hardware and all the software, but what are business problems? Most business problems are going to involve needing information to make decisions by, and being able to retrieve that information, analyze that information, organize that information, and give it to management so that they can better make decisions to keep their company in business. So as an MIS professional, you're going to be using technology to integrate and support all of the different business activities, all those different functional departments, from marketing to human resources to production to accounting and finance. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. And all of the integration of this technology in all of those different fields is what we focus on. We teach our students through a series of courses that they take that I will show you coming up, how to analyze, design, and develop and maintain these information systems that every business uses, regardless of the industry, regardless of the size. Information and technology. Could you run a business without it? Could anybody, even a small startup business?
Yeah.
Not very efficient. You're a business, but you have technology. Floyd is a continuing professional student of ours, and he loves to take our MIS classes. I just wish we could get him on a degree plan to get headed in that direction of having that degree at MIS. But most companies cannot run their business and interface with their customers without having technology. I just used it last week. I got online to American Airlines website, made my reservations, selected my seat in the plane, and then 24 hours before I left, I printed out my boarding pass. You know how much time that saved me? I have to stand in line. And of course, I give my loyalty to Jack Brooks Regional Airport so we can keep that in business and drive out there and not have to pay parking and walk right through, except when you get to security. And that doesn't take too long. But the point is, we run our lives around technology. You go through registration every semester, and you do it over the internet, more than likely. And it didn't used to be that way. Until we got the browser out, you had to do it manually. So technology is everywhere. Information is everywhere. You know we live in an information age. Now, I want to point out a difference, major differences between our program here in the College of Business and our competitors' program, which is CIS, over in Arts and Sciences. Our focus, obviously, is on business and how business people use technology to solve those problems. Theirs is on developing software, programming, and coding. Okay? Our objective in our program is to become and run a more efficient and effective business. And we start analyzing those processes and making them more streamlined and efficient. And we teach all that in all of our courses. That's what our main objective is. That's what's needed in the real world. Theirs is on, we got to have a reliable software program that's not going to crash and keep it up and running. Our core skill is on problem solving, analyzing data, solving problems. Theirs is on learning the logic and procedures for coding, whatever language, C++, etc., Java. our core task in terms of what we do in our curriculum, we determine what our business requirements are that will be necessary to implement and use that information system. Every department has business requirements. Every department uses IT. Theirs is to deliver IS to meet the defined requirements. That's what a programmer does, to meet the requirements of the user who's going to implement that application. Our starting job title for entry-level positions is some type of systems analyst. You're going to see later on in this presentation that we have a variety of different titles. It could be an SAP analyst. Their entry-level position is application programmer. Okay? There is a need for that. But most of our business students don't want to be a programmer. Our career goals are, in that career path, we start at that entry-level position and we have a definitive career path all the way up to the top strategic level where we could focus as a CIO or a database administrator or a network manager, all the different niches that you could focus on and make that progression up. And their career goals are primarily, I want to be a manager over the programming staff. And then we are in college business and they are in arts and sciences. They used to be in engineering, but no more, over in arts and sciences. Okay, this right here is our major MIS curriculum. Some of these classes will look familiar to you because every business major has to take at least 2 of these courses out of our business core. MIS F14, Principles of MIS. We have evolved. I created that class many, many years ago, and it was a senior level class. We redesigned it, restructured it, dropped it to the junior level, retitled it, and of course the content changes every time technology and trends change. Now, you've also taken, everybody has to have that one. The other one that is not part of our core that everybody has to take, which is in the business core, is the MIS F14. That freshman hands-on office class, which is the prerequisite to the MIS F3310 class. All right, MIS F3340, the title is IS Infrastructure, which really is a networking class. They're required of the major. All of these courses you see here are required of our majors. All 24 hours. And we'll get to the electives. You know, our curriculum, before I keep talking about these courses, our curriculum really does teach and focus on the 4 big workplace trends concerning technology trends. Do you know what they are? How many MIS majors? Okay, somebody who answered that question, one of the MIS majors. See if you can answer that question, because you're learning these concepts now, what these trends are. That's not an IT trend, that's a management trend. Good try, but that's not what I'm looking for. IT trends. Cloud computing. Didn't we learn about that in 3310? Can you tell me again? Did you learn that? You learned about that? Networking. That's right, networking. Social media. And big data. What is our term in the textbook for big data? Business intelligence, right? Remember that term? See, when you get exposed to these trends and these concepts, you've got to remember them. Because that makes you marketable. That knowledge is what they're looking for. And you've got to be able maybe to explain some of these things during an interview. The top 4 trends. If you don't believe me that those are the trends, you do your own research. But I stay in touch very closely with employers because I place a lot of students in these MIS positions. And sometimes I get them to come as speakers here and talk to you about these trends. And we try to tailor our curriculum to keep up with the trends. And this is the only curriculum where you learn all these trends. So once again, in summary, those 4 trends were cloud computing, that's a big one. You see commercials on TV for it all the time. Networking, social media, big data, and we'll throw in another one, that mobile apps, because everybody has a mobile device. Okay? All of those are covered. All right, back to our courses. We require one of these 2 programming courses. We only have one programming requirement. MIS F14, which is Java programming, or 3360, which is Visual Basic. MIS F3370, outstanding course taught by Dr. Bandy. I think everybody in here probably knows Dr. Bandy, the chair of our department, and the teacher of this course, Systems Analysis and Design, where you actually learn to use some software that maybe you've never heard of. I'm getting to the software in a minute. We do teach more than SAP. And that is an outstanding class, because that's where you break the processes down, you analyze them, you graphically configure the new system, and then in the capstone course, 4380, the IS development, you actually implement that new system on the internet. And see, that can become part of your e-portfolio, where you can show a potential employer, this is what I learned how to do in this MIS curriculum at Lamar, and take it with you. That's a big deal. They want to see a portfolio of your work. Then you'll be able to show them that. The MIS E4370 ERP overview, which is nothing but SAP. And Dr. Ghosh, raise your hand, Dr. Ghosh, in case they don't know you, but I bet you've had him. He teaches our MIS E4370. I created that class many years ago, and it was not involving SAP. It was an advanced database class. But we teach in this class now, as I said, we evolve our curriculum when trends change. About 10 different modules of SAP. And that really improves your marketability and gets you ready for those who are interested in Term 10, which I'm getting to in just a minute. So in 4350 is IS Project Management, where you're using Microsoft Project to design projects, and the focus is on managing projects, because that's a big deal in the business world today, project management. So that would be a new tool to add to your software repertoire. And then our electives, MIS E4390, here is our BI class, where you get to use SAP and perform multidimensional analysis, which is what you have to do on big data, in terms of what are these trends and behaviors telling us, what are the insights to all this data. When you have millions or billions of data points, and you got to analyze them and give them to management as to what trends, what's the behavior in terms of sales, and things we need to know about the products and our competitors and everything else. It's got to all be analyzed. And when I say multidimensional, you really can't do that in Excel. You can do a small version of it with pivot table feature in Excel. But to do the massive multidimensional, where you have many, many attributes, you need to learn how to do it in SAP. And that name, business intelligence, that is also a job title that they're looking for. It's in great demand, because the big data, business intelligence, bringing in all this data from primarily external sources and storing it, and then analyzing it, storing it in a data warehouse, and then maybe taking a slice of that for every department. We call that functional slice a data mart. where data mining can be performed. Everybody's analyzing data. It's just not the IT department. It is accounting, finance, marketing, especially marketing, because that's the department that is solely responsible for bringing in the revenue. So we got to look at, in that data mining capacity, consumer behavior, and asking a lot of questions when we do this analysis of who our customers are, and who our best customers are, and who our worst customers are, and all the things that go with that. MIS F14 is an e-commerce, ERP e-commerce, and that usually is taught online. Several of these are taught online, and that is a very good one in terms of better understanding e-commerce using SAP. All right, here's the software. And as we look down the list, see how many of these you are familiar with or have ever used. Everybody has used, who is a non-MIS major, at least 2 different SAP modules. You remember the name of the module you learned in the MIS F1373 class? Sales and distribution. That needs to be stated on your resume too, under your computer skills section. Even if you don't pick up a double major or get a minor, it still increases your marketability. The second module you learn in the MIS F3310 is the, what? That's right, materials management, where you go in and create purchase orders and do all those things. So everybody has taken that, but see, in this major, as you saw from the courses listed, you're going to take and learn more modules and increase that knowledge base and that skill set up to a higher level. I had a student tell me one time, well, recently, Dr. Barnes, this SAP is not as fun as my video games. This is kind of boring. I want it to be like a video game. I said, it's this software that's going to get you a better job with your skill sets. A video game is not going to get you a job. That's what you do after hours. So we can't equate something like that to something like this. By the end of the semester, he ended up liking that software. And wanted to take another course in it. Oracle 11G, you know what Oracle is? It's their current version. That's a database. It's a database company that started out as a database, and through the last 25 years, they started evolving into an ERP competitor to SAP. They started buying up supply chain management companies and CRM companies and evolving into that. So when we teach this in our curriculum, we focus on teaching it as a database. But I wanted to make it known to you that it's also an ERP if we had all the other modules involved with the teaching of it. We teach one ERP, and that is SAP. And remember, that's how you pronounce it too. Don't ever call it SAP, because that marks you as not being very smart if you talk like that around people who use it. SAP, it takes longer to say it, but get that down. Dreamweaver is taught in the 4380 class. Tableau, you ever heard of that one? Visible Analyst, which is a case tool, that's a graphical design that is taught in the MIS F3370. Visual Basic for that programming class. I mentioned MS Project for the MIS F4350 class, and then of course MS Office. We listed that last because we've been learning that for a long time. So that's the software that would be in your repertoire. Here are a lot of the job titles that you could go into, and this is just a few. See, there's many different niches: networking, web design, database administration, app design, all of these different fields that you can go into. Now, I really like this slide the most because I'm motivated by money and when I go into teaching. Hey, but I do consulting on the side, so it helps. These are a listing of the job titles of our recent graduates how many were hired by that particular company, the location of that company, and most importantly, in the right column, the salary range. I want you to look at that carefully. And then when you do the research on your entry-level position for your major, see how the salaries compare. We have 2 SAP associates hired by Computer Science Corporation in Falls Church, Virginia, between $80,000 and $85,000. And the young lady one of them, who got that job there, passed the SAP certification test. Because she took TURP 10, she had all this exposure to SAP, took that hard certification test at the end of it, and passed it, and that automatically raises your salary requirements $10,000 to $15,000. So that's pretty good for somebody 24, 25, graduating from Lamar. That's more than accounting majors are making, for your information. All right, all of these, Lockheed Martin 55 to 60, coming on down. HP have hired 4 of our majors, 60 to 65. This one down here, the service consultant, number of people they've hired, 10. I placed all 10 of those at this consulting firm in Austin, going back to May of 2010. They love it. In fact, I had a message from the CEO who's hired all 10. He wrote me last week and said, can you send me somebody else? We love Lamar. They only have 37 total employees, and a third of them are from our program. So what does that say about the reputation of our program? When all of our majors are good majors, are good qualified majors who have good skill sets, who can add value, getting these good jobs. Matthew is going to be talking to you in a minute. He is working at the Reach Group in Houston. All of these. So it's nothing to sneer at. It's something to think about. Okay, very quickly. MIS as a double major or a minor goes with every program in the College of Business. General business, entrepreneurship, all the way up to accounting, marketing, whatever. Think about that. The MIS minor is 18 hours. Here are the core ones you have to take. You've already had the MIS F14, the networking course I mentioned earlier is one, MIS F3370, and then the 4370. And then you choose 2 of these 4 electives. 18 hours. 18 hours or minor. We have a lot of part-time jobs and full-time jobs. We have a Facebook page called MIS Lamar where we get so many positions. We post them up there. In fact, that's how Matthew got his job. And you check those qualifications and requirements to see if you meet what they're asking for. And most of them are asking for either Oracle or SAP. You can see all these statistics in terms of how many companies worldwide. And I want to tell you how many schools nationwide, how many colleges offer SAP. There's about 3,400 universities in the United States, about 320 teach SAP. We consider SAP our core competency. And our students are getting jobs with it. It's in great demand. And it leads to that. I've already mentioned all of these, and most of these, as I pointed out earlier, are going to be teaching you different modules in SAP. Even a course that's not up there. I teach a management 4350 class where I teach the human capital management module in that management course every summer. So this is what I wanted to point out to you. Regardless of what your major is, if you have taken at least 3 SAP courses, not including MIS F1373, but any of those junior and senior level courses that would qualify you to receive a recognition award or certificate. It's really a certificate that shows that you have completed approximately 75 hours of instruction in at least 3 different modules. Students who have completed 3 SAP courses or more are also qualified to take the Turk 10 that we offer every May between the end of the spring semester and the beginning of summer 1. We call it Turk 10, SRP, ERP Academy. It's a boot camp. You're in there for 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. On the final Friday, you take an online exam. It's a certification exam. Part of the cost of attending this, which is about $500, covers the course materials that you'll need and the cost of taking the exam. And it is, when I say boot camp, I mean it's not like your typical principal's course. It's intense, and you gotta really study and know this stuff. And see, the thing is, the test is not over the features. The test is over the concepts of integration and what that means. And it's a high-level test. It's very challenging. But for you, out in the real world, if you decided to get certified out there, it's about $5,500 to take that certification exam. Here, because we are a member of the SAP University Alliance, it's $500, which is not cheap, but relative to the $5,500, it is. So you might want to think about that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What days did you say it was from? You said
Well,
spring.
I can't give you an exact date right now, but it's sometime during that 2-week window from when the spring semester, after graduation and before summer 1, so mid-May.
And what 3 SAP courses were required?
Any of those that I just mentioned, except the one you're in now would qualify, but you'd need 2 more. 1373 does not count.
So, can you introduce Matthew? We'll make it the questions.
Yeah, well, I just love to talk so much, I'm running over a little bit. But I want to introduce to you one of our former students, Matthew McGinnis, who works at the REACH group. And he was generous enough to drive over from Houston and talk to you about his job and his skill set. So I'll turn it over to him.
So, I guess just to give you a little bit of the initial background, I graduated tomorrow, December of 2012. I was one of those 2 data techs you saw down there in the different starting position slide. I was in that position about 6 months and was moved up to a project manager position. And I guess to give you the background, starting with the data tech, it was a new position for the company. It was doing a lot of data support, back-end support. My company, a lot of us are client-facing. We're out in our client offices working with their people every day. And one of our project managers was in a position where the data volume was just overwhelming for him. It wasn't something one person could keep up, so started these 2 data tech positions, kind of come in initially do the back office support for him, crunch the numbers, produce the reports you have to hand out to the client. And about 2 months after I started that, our client's team lead for the oil drilling team said, hey, I need something that's going to help me keep track of my costs, figure out how I'm doing with all my different wells I'm drilling. And that came back to me, and that comes back kind of to MIS. It was a pretty blanket question, like, how can I track my costs? And we ran with it, and about 2 weeks later, working with my boss at the time, was the project manager, came up with a simple little Excel spreadsheet. Said, here's the 5 or 6 or 7 different metrics you want to look at. Here's how we're going to compile it, and here's somewhere you can look at all of it together, which, even if it's not a huge SAP type program, is an information system. Dr. Barnes talked about it's taking business intelligence, taking the information they need to operate, putting it together into a system that lets them visualize it as they need to, and then act on that. That spreadsheet has since grown to about 20 or 30 different tabs, I think, with a lot of macro support behind it. So MIS, again, Visual Basic enabled me to be part of that. And I believe that's part of what got me the project manager position. The manager that I was working for initially as the data tech was promoted within our company. And they kind of said, okay, well, we've got to put someone else there. We don't want to lose the project by moving the guy out. Since I had been part of the client team for 6 months, since I had helped develop the project that they were really using, it gave me the opportunity to take that with very little experience but a lot of support from the company and a lot of background knowledge. Since then, Visual Basic has continued to be a big part. I've got a couple different tools I've built that are working in different parts of the client office now. And again, it's all performance-based. That's kind of our niche. My company, we do performance optimization and safety, our main two. My project obviously is a performance project, but the data we capture, that pulling in every day from their systems, is the basis for all of this. Okay, how do we optimize our business? How do we plan our business? When it comes time to budgeting, they look at their performance, they look at their cost numbers. It's all tracked through what we do, through systems we built that I don't even really bother with anymore unless something goes wrong. But a lot of that ability comes back to the courses here. Like I said, I mentioned Visual Basic, we used Office. Having knowledge of database systems helps a lot when you're building those initial projects. They have a question, knowing how to analyze the question, pick it apart to the different pieces you need, where to go to get those pieces, how to compile them, is all MIS type stuff. It's all stuff I did building databases, working through the courses here. In addition to that, people skills, while I have the opportunity, I'd encourage you guys to get involved. I think AIS is here quite a bit. I was involved with a couple other organizations on campus, just having that ability to interact with people and kind of put those different projects together apart from what you did in classwork. It's founded, I think it's still going, the Freshman Business Society when I was here. That was a big resume bullet when I was interviewing. I was able to take a concept from idea to actuality. That's huge looking at it from an employer standpoint that says you can work with that abstract thought. You're not going to be the guy that they have to tell everything to. Anything you want to add? I was going to open up the questions for Dr. Barnes, myself.
Do you have any opportunity there for our students to grow and for internship or job opportunities in your company?
For the data techs, I think we have one working right now. The other girl I started with has just moved on to a project. Recently we had an opening that went to someone else, unfortunately. Dr. Bandy was aware of it. I think we had one application from Lamar for that position. We had someone that had about 5 years in the oil industry chase after it as well. So Dr. Barnes mentioned the Facebook group. She said that's how I found my job. That's how that second time the data tech position came open, that's how it was posted. So slowly but surely we're operating one or two since I've been part of the company. And it just kind of depends on project requirements, if a new position comes up or not. So question?
So it sounds like you didn't have real formal training. You kind of just hit the ground running and they taught you as you went.
There was about 1 week of crazy learning about how the oil industry works, how the drilling side of things work. And then it was into a software program my company uses, a little proprietary one of our guys developed several years ago. That's how we do most of our systems. So learning how to input data from that and run it. Questions?
Is there, just, based on your professional experience, with a bachelor's degree or BBA, would that be like sufficient in moving up throughout your career, or would you expect that to come back in time for a master's degree in your field?
I think it will be sufficient. I've got a couple other friends I keep in touch with that were part of my core project team while I was here. One of them is working e-commerce with Academy, doing website development, so all the background database stuff that runs that. Aaron, yeah. Another one, Jared, is one of the guys with the new office. I think Cody is with one of the local credit unions doing kind of the networking stuff, but none of them.
I'm so glad that you are in touch.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah, Aaron's actually a couple miles down the road from me, so.
But to answer that question, it depends what your career path is. And if you want to get into management, then you probably would need an MBA or another level degree in IS.
But always with some work experience, right?
The bachelor's will get you.
With some work experience, it makes a difference.
And when you get to the point where the company says, we want you to have a master's, usually you've got enough seniority, they'll help you pay for it. If not, you'll really pay for it. So.
I want to come up and say a few more things.
EIS has something to say. Would you let me say that first? After, EIS?
I was going to.
Okay.
And I
You can come up and say it, or I can say it.
Question?
What kind of project are you a project manager for?
So I work with Murphy Exploration and Production Company. I said my side of my company that I'm with, the Reach Group, is performance optimization. So on a daily, weekly basis, I'm kind of in Murphy's office capturing all the performance data. Like when they drill a well, there's several different phases it breaks down to. Each one has some time associated with it, some cost associated with it. And so as they're doing these operations, I gather all that data, input it into our system that we have. And at the end of each well, you kind of, here's a report for it. At the end of each quarter, here's a quarterly summary of everything you've done, yearly, etc. And what that enables is their drilling engineers to then go back and as they refine their operational so we use this drill bit this time, and here's how we did on this well. Let's try a different drill bit and see how it does. And there are a ton of different factors that they can input engineering that well. But what we do is give them the performance metrics to figure out if they're getting better or getting worse and refine their operation. And part of that is just working with them. You know, if I see a trend, I can go, hey, you know, here's, I don't know if you picked up on this yet, but here's something that's happening. The other side of it is the management side. So through things like that big giant Excel spreadsheet I mentioned, kind of work with their drilling team lead and the drilling completions manager to keep them kind of aligned on where they want to go with their metrics. So if they want to get better at a certain area of their operation, I kind of work with them to say, well, here's the metrics you can look at. Here's how to look at the metrics so you're not biasing it. I guess an example of one of the problems I'm currently working on, the drilling completions manager wants to get his foreman from the field out on the oil rigs, a lot more of their input back into the office and a lot of the lessons they're learning. So myself and the drilling team lead are kind of having to say, okay, well, what's that going to look like? How do we distribute that information? What information needs to be distributed? How is it going to come back? How are we going to capture all those lessons? How are we going to make sure that they're then available and implemented? So it's, again, goes back to information systems. What information needs to go where, how, through what methods, what's going to come back, how we're going to capture that, how we're going to make sure we learn from it instead of just build some little file that nobody ever looks at again. So, does that answer the question? Okay.
I'm just curious about one thing. How many hours you put in every week?
I would say 40 to 50.
40 to 50. A bad week is 50 hours?
End of the quarter, end of the year is usually the 50-hour weeks. So we have a lot of extra products to put together.
Did you say Murphy Group that has all the stations at Walmart?
It was. They just recently split into Murphy USA, which does the gas stations, all that, and Murphy Exploration Production, which does the drilling and getting oil out of the ground. And I'm with the exploration side. About 6 months ago, they split into two different entities. Do you have any other questions out there?
How long did it take you to get the job?
I got my data tech job. I like to tell this story the day before I graduated. That's when I finally got the offer. I was interviewing through my last semester. So that was a big weight off my shoulders walking down the aisle at graduation.
Did you ever like forget any of the stuff that you learned, or was it just like since you got the job right then and there, was it just easy?
It specializes. It was definitely a lot of learning at the start. I wasn't really familiar with the drilling side of the oil industry, but you know, should have highlighted certain parts of the stuff Dr. Barnes has talked about. You know, some of my friends I've kept in touch with are using different aspects of it. So having that background and knowledge helped me get the job, and then from there you kind of specialized into what the requirements were for my position.
Was it an easy transition or what?
Learning about the oil industry was a very challenging transition, I'll put it that way. It took about 2 to 3 weeks before we were really kind of starting to get smooth with that. But as far as using the software, doing the application design in Excel, I was familiar with that. That was kind of old hat through.
So for the business side of it, it's totally new to you, of course,
Yeah, understanding the operational side of it, but understanding the business aspects, you know, how they're looking at costs, how they want to analyze their data, that was familiar to me already. It was just learning how to apply that same process to a different kind of knowledge base, like a different operation.
One last question for me. Does your company do data analysis for its own, like you were saying they do like oil and gas and drilling? Is that for its own oil and gas and drilling, or is it contracting? to other companies?
We're a contracting consulting company.
Okay.
So we go out to the different clients, like BP, we work with ExxonMobil, I think we got something with. I'm working with Murphy, Hunt Energy, there's a lot of different people we work with, so.
It's in a good sector too. That's the booming sector in Houston is energy. Pays lots of trucks too.
So it's either oil or medical in Houston, it seems like, so. Any more questions out there? A couple pop up recently.
Thanks for coming.
I want to bring up Dr. Flossie.
Well, I think our president is going to talk about AIS.
President
And then we have
of
Ralph.
our MIS group, AIS, who's also a student of mine, and she wants to tell you about a fundraising drive that they have going on.
Hi, everybody. I just want to tell y'all about the fundraiser that we have going on. It's for the Buccaneer School for kids. What we're doing is we're just having a basic school supply drive. What you can do is purchase little utensils like pens, glue, whatever from Dollar General or wherever you want to buy from. And just donate it. You can drop it off on the yellow box that we have up front for you. You can drop it off at Ms. Floss's office or the other room that we have available for you. Any donations that y'all make be appreciated. It's for a good cause for the children out there. Foster kids, stuff like that. So we appreciate it all. And we'll be raffling off the shirt still, up front. So if you'd like to get a raffle ticket, then come up front and see us.
And how long will the drive go through? What's the last day of the drive?
I think
November
November
14th.
14th.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that box in the career center needs to be emptied out because that's full. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if you have any questions about what I've talked about our curriculum, about our major, about the minor, please feel free to contact Dr. Bandy, the chair, or Dr. Flossie, or Dr. Ghosh, or myself. One of our faculty members missing, Dr. Udall. And we'll be happy to answer anything that you have, and do think about the bottom line is you want a job that pays more than minimum wage, right? And you need to begin that job search process, especially if you're a senior now, because they're not going to fall out of the sky and land in your lap. You can join our MIS Lamar Facebook page. If you don't believe how many jobs are available, we have more job postings than we have students to fill them. Jobs are out there. These skills that we're teaching you are in great demand. These jobs pay a lot more than minimum wage. So we'd love to have you come join our team. And thank you again for coming, and thank faculty for coming, thank the students for coming. And